Hello, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with artists from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Sally Bulling is a contemporary New Zealand painter living in Queenstown. Invoking a sense of energy, Sally's abstract works are created with physical movements, sweeping marks, dripping flicks, and elaborate pours. Her love of light, colour, and reflection is captured in her beautiful paintings. After a successful career in the fashion and fine art industry, she returned to her love of painting in 2020, and she now works full-time on her art practice. I loved hanging out with Sally in my Muriwai studio. What a gorgeous woman. We were very lucky that she was able to come up on a trip to Auckland and record in person, which was lovely. We share a love of sparkles and colour, and I found our chat very inspiring, as I'm sure you will too. Sally talks about her career in art consultancy, and she shares some great tips for approaching galleries, choosing a gallery for your work, the advantages of being represented by a gallery, and what galleries look for in an artist. Sally talks about how she got back into painting in 2020, how she came to use mirrors as a canvas and stickers as a medium, and how her first work sold in the gallery within 3 hours, marking the beginning of a very successful artistic career. We chat about her process from sourcing and cutting mirrors, selecting and layering paint, to tinting and applying epoxy resin, adding gilding to the edges of her work, and her technical approach to colour. Sally has a solo show coming up at Parnell Gallery, A Pansy for Your Thoughts, which goes from the 14th of May to the 28th of May 2024. Morena, Sally.
Morning, Mandy. How are you?
Lovely. I'm good, thank you. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. It's beautiful being here.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very sort of tropical and clammy today for some reason. But you've come all the way up from Queenstown, and instead of us Zooming, you are here in person, which is a real treat.
Thank you. Yeah, it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. And it's so nice to talk in person. And you've also been on a mission to get some of your works up to Auckland as well. So it's been a good weekend to get everything done.
It's been amazing. It's been a challenge getting everything up here with the art fair on. So, yeah,
I can imagine. Let's go back to your childhood. You are living at the moment in Queenstown. Is that where you were born?
Not born, no. I was actually born in Australia. So my parents are both Kiwis, but they were over there working. They were actually heading off on their OE, and my mum fell pregnant with my older brother. So they ended up staying in Australia, and all 3 kids were born over there. So we moved back to Queenstown when I was 6 years old after a short time in Auckland. And so I pretty much had the privilege of growing up in Queenstown.
Such a beautiful place.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah, incredible place to grow up.
Yeah, it's just such an incredible playground for kids, isn't it?
Oh, and back then, I mean, so different to now. It was a very small, country tourist town.
Yeah.
We had the whole place to ourselves, pretty much, It was incredible. Yeah. And the snow seasons, everything was, and the surroundings. I mean, there's not too many places in the world that are as beautiful as Queenstown and its natural raw beauty.
Totally. Yeah. It's such a beautiful spot. So that must be very inspiring for you now, I imagine.
I think it always has been inspiring. Yeah. I think growing up around those mountains and the lakes and the outdoors is, you're just constantly in awe, especially the light. The light down there is pretty unique as well. So all the beautiful colours and you just grow up just like, and we still wake up, in the morning, look out over the lake and you're just like, oh gosh, wow, so lucky.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. And no matter where you live in Queenstown, there's some sort of gorgeous vista.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's farmland or the lake or mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And were you a creative child, do you think?
Yeah, I grew up around, I think, a lot of creative people. I'm not sure if I was overly creative from a young age. I'm sure I probably was, but I grew up with two brothers, so we were always out doing stuff. So, I guess back in the day, I was probably a little bit of a tomboy in that sense. Not that you really use that word anymore, but yeah, back then I would have been classed a little bit of a tomboy, but also loved beautiful things. But we were skiing, and I was very athletic. I was probably had that like thing where I had the energy and the competitiveness of an athlete, but then more of the soul and chill vibe of an artist. So it was quite, two quite different personalities in one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you really keen on art and doing quite well at high school?
Yeah. So I pretty much, high school years were interesting for me. I loved school, like the social aspect of school. And I definitely found myself in the dark room for probably 80% of the time, and the art room. Academically, maths and science and that kind of thing weren't my thing. I was definitely the art student, and again, just I played netball, a lot of netball. I ice skated, skied. That was my life. But I think, yeah, I graduated high school winning all the art prizes and all the sports prizes. So it was kind of like, yeah.
Oh, which is sometimes you don't see that kind of mix.
No, I think it confused other people more than it confused me. Like I was quite, happy with that, that balance. And I think even when I headed off to art school in Dunedin, I was scouted by Otago Netball to come down and play netball down there. So, instantly they were kind of like, oh, so what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I've applied for art school. And they're like, oh, art school. And I was like, yeah. And I'd already been accepted, which was amazing. So I applied in year 6. So by the time I hit my final year at high school, I already knew that's what I was going to be doing.
Well, that's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have that.
So my last year at school it was a fun year. I didn't have the pressure of, not knowing what I was going to
you'd already been accepted.
Yeah, it was awesome. And back then it was only, I think, 45 people every year were accepted in through our portfolios. So yeah, so that was actually a really nice place to be in. But I think by the time I was 16, I was only ever going to be an artist. Do you know what I mean? That was
Yeah, which is amazing to have that foresight.
So I graduated high school, spent summer in Queenstown, had a great time working in the bars and, just doing and working out a lot because I was going down to play netball as well. So I moved down to Dunedin and started art school, which I loved, and started playing competitive netball. At that stage, I was in the development squad for Otago. So I was playing Otago under-21 team most of the time. So that was my weekends, and most of my, after art school time was all taken up by netball. And, and then at art school, I couldn't believe the fact that all we had to do was art all day, all the life drawing classes and everything like that. And I think I started art school in the first couple of years thinking I'd be doing photography because I loved photography. But by my second year, everything started to change so much with technology. And to me, the process of photography that I loved was actually being in a darkroom and just everything revealing itself as you were in there. There was something really special about that. But as it moved towards digital, I kind of started to move away from it and ended up heading into the painting area of the art school, which I loved as well. But then next minute I moved across into screen printing, into the printing side of things. And that was mainly because of the tutors that were there who I really, really loved. So that was Marilyn Webb at the time. She was my tutor in the art department, and Chris de Jong. And I think I headed to the screen area because I just loved colour. And for me, the screen printing and the saturation that you got out of the colour, I loved every time you pressed down and got all that beautiful saturation of colour. So I ended up in the printmaking zone most of the time, even though I was a painting graduate. And in the end, I just graduated in both because I was working on both sides of the, So it was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were really interested in colour and sort of all the scientific ideas behind colour at university.
Yeah, so my graduate show was, I often think now, I was like, gosh, if social media was around back then, how would have it, taken off? Because, a lot of the graduates, they did like 2 or 3 works for the final show. I literally turned a whole classroom, painted the whole thing white and just saturated it with colour fields and I made giant Jaffas and giant Smarties, like all just scattered over a white floor. And there was a white bed that was in the room as well, because a lot of it came through colour theory and dreams. So anyway, it was huge, like I had like flatmates and friends all helping me paint the place white. It was on the cover of the ODT.
Really?
But like back then, that's kind of as far as that kind of thing went.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a really big moment when I reflect on it. Yeah, and how far and how much I did. Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah,
and that was
awesome.
more, it was painting and screen printing.
Yeah.
With a sort of installation.
Yeah, installation,
work.
sculpture, kind of like I just all out, I think, I don't do things in halves most of the time. Like I've always really liked big. And so that was my end of year show. And I had, back then when you're a young art student, I had painted my body and lied naked on canvases and, like you do.
As you do.
Exactly. Yeah. So that, I think it was fun.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And it sounds like you were quite innovative even then.
Yeah, well, I was using, it was quite interesting because I had walked to art school, and I walked past this secondhand store where they had some of the old glass lampshades from one of the streets in Dunedin, and probably absolute sacrilege. I bought them and spray painted them bright red, and they were part of the sculpture that sat in the middle of the room. And I used to walk past the marine area, and that's when I actually, walked in and started talking to the guys, and that's where I first started using resin, was at art school.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so I poured it all over everything, and not like I do now. It was very like reserved because back then on a student's budget, you couldn't afford resin. Like it was like quite an expensive thing to be using, and it was the old school boat resin. There wasn't art resin, 20 odd years ago that you could get your hands on in New Zealand. Yeah.
And that was just a sort of love of shine. Do you think that sort of got that resin connection?
I think so, yeah. And I think too, it escalates the colour. You pour the resin over it and instantly you get this beautiful saturation. And I think that's been one of the things I've always been drawn to, shine and colour and light and Sparkle, yeah.
I wore my sparkly top.
And I'm loving that. I know. I love it.
Which is not hard for me because I quite often end up in sparkles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're fabulous.
Love sequins.
Yeah. I know. Glitter, sequins.
My favourite thing to do is sequins, like that sort of glamour side of sequins with really ripped jeans or, combining sort of different elements of clothing.
Yeah.
I
know. I love to. Yeah. I worked in the fashion industry for a long time, so I always appreciate.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting that you did end up in the fashion industry. So what happened after uni?
So I graduated university or art school, and I had kind of 2 roads I could go down at that point, and one was either stay in Dunedin and play netball. So I was named in the squad my final year there for the following season, and I actually turned that down and decided that I wanted to pursue being an artist, and I honestly at that stage didn't doubt that's what I'd be doing. I was like, I grew up, I think, in my parents, my whole family is successful. They're all business people. My brothers are both engineers. My dad's an engineer. My mum ran 3 businesses in Queenstown when we were growing up. And a lot of the time on our own, because my dad would work away on hydro dams and this and that. We kind of grew up never knowing really what he did. Everyone's like, so what does he do? I'm like, I don't know. He's like project manager, engineer. I don't know.
It makes bridges.
Yeah, it makes bridges. Yeah, it's not pretty stuff. Yeah, so I grew up around that, and also with the idea that you could do anything. And I think growing up with 2 brothers, I never saw a restriction on being a female. I was just one of the boys a lot of the time too, And so I think, when you're young and the whole world's at your feet, you're like, yes, that's what I'm going to do. And there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
So anyway, I left, went back to Queenstown to start making art, which I did. And at the time, there's another artist who lived in Queenstown, John Shuri, who had a gallery there. And so at the start, I was painting and I was selling works. But at the same time, I was like, how am I actually going to, live and make an income out of this? There was no social media. You left art school and everyone went their separate ways. There was, there's no Facebook or Instagram or any way to keep in touch with these people either. So it was almost like you came from an institution where there was all this amazing support and, yes, go out, go and do. And then you got dropped into the world. And I mean, to be fair, Queenstown of all places back then there wasn't a huge art scene there, but it's where I wanted to be. So I then kind of started reflecting on, and as your parents do, like, we can't support you for ever just painting. What are you going to do with your life? And the old teaching thing came up, and everyone's like, oh, you should go and do teaching. I was like, nah. And then in the end, I ended up going into business and had a fashion store, Angel Divine, which still runs now. It's been on sold a couple of times, but it's still down in Queenstown. And it was a high-end fashion store. And I think it was right at that time when the Karen Walkers and, Zambezi and Nomdine, all those guys were really starting to take off in New Zealand fashion and on probably an international scene as well. So yes, I delved into
amazing.
that.
And how did you, how did you have the confidence and the knowledge to do something like that?
I think it was more business knowledge, and confidence came from my parents.
Yeah,
like they had been in business in Queenstown, 2 jewellery stores and souvenir stores and stuff like that. And I think too, I wanted to be in an industry that was creative when I realised I wasn't going to be painting all the time. And there seemed to be a lot of female, creative people in that industry at the time. I did find when I was looking around in my younger years and going to galleries for representation, it was very male dominated, and I quickly realized too, I was like, oh my gosh, what was I even thinking? I was like, here I was, this like fierce feminist who was like going to be, a painter, and there was nothing stopping me. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, all the artist models that we've studied and all the successful artists in New Zealand, they're all male. And it didn't even click to me, So I was like, oh, this industry's fun, it's creative, everyone's doing big, amazing things, and there's lots of females. And, I started working in the industry and they're like, oh yeah, I've got to find art degree. Oh yeah, me too. It's kind of like, so I
find your people.
Yeah, I found quite, I was at home, and I think because I was young, I was like 22 when I, started in that business. It was a fun industry, being 22 and off to fashion weeks and looking at collections and being around creative
How amazing.
people was awesome. Yeah.
And you were bringing some of the top New Zealand designers into your store.
Yeah. So no, it was great, and I did that for 7 years, and then along the way I had my 2 children, which was amazing too. So I actually ended up starting a children's fashion label, which we had manufactured in China. So I did quite a lot of travel over there as well. But I just got to the point, I think, in my late 20s where I just started to feel family versus business. And, like I've always said, you're better to do one thing well than, spread yourself and you're just like frantically trying to do so many other things not well. So in the end, it all kind of timed with my first marriage breakup as well. But I threw all my toys up in the air, sold my business, and moved to Noosa.
Wow.
Yeah, with my 2 children. And I had recently met my current husband in Queenstown. Cringe, he was my personal trainer when I met him.
Really?
Yeah. He was traveling around in Queenstown and just happened to be, over from the States, traveling around Queenstown. And so we met. He went back to the States, but ended up coming to live with me in Noosa. So, and that was that chapter kind of, sewn up, and then moved into the next chapter, which ended up being the start of, my art consulting years.
Yes,
yeah.
Which is so interesting. And I'm sure that you have got so many tips and sort of ideas and suggestions for people listening, particularly artists, with how to sort of approach selling your art and that kind of thing. Yeah. So how did you actually get into that? It's quite a different career in a way.
I mean, I think, again, I'm naturally drawn to creative people and spaces. And I was walking down the main street in Noosa. And when I arrived there, I was waitressing and working in a fashion store, kind of just doubling down, trying to, make as much money as I can, just doing crazy hours. But I came across the Peter Lick Gallery, which was down the far end of Hastings Street. And I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, these photographs are amazing. And he uses like a silver halide crystal in this emulsion of his, work. So you get this beautiful light through his photography. And I just started chatting away to the manager there, and she's like, oh, well, we're actually looking for an art consultant. I was like, oh my gosh, no way. And she's like, yeah, come back and, meet with the other crew and have an interview. So in the end, I got that job, and it was amazing.
Wow.
It was.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. And
sometimes when you're just in the right place at the right time.
Close one door, open another.
Yeah.
I'm big on change. Like if things aren't working, just stop.
Yeah.
Restart, reset button.
And you were obviously quite brave and sort of prepared to take a risk and kind of put yourself out there, sort of out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think when you take risks, that's when the rewards come a lot of the time. So, so I started working there, and from that, it was so interesting from a business perspective, just because of the way he ran his business. So he has 13 or 14 galleries in America when I was working for him, and a couple in Australia. And he was turning over $60 million a year in art sales, which was such an eye-opener, coming from the idea that I gave up doing art and then I'm right at the other end of the spectrum selling work for someone who was, making $60 million a year. I think his highest art, like his photography, one piece sold for $6 million.
Wow.
So he had a market, and his main market was America, but he was just doing it and killing it. And, it was...
That's incredible.
It's amazing, yeah.
And so his galleries was just his work at all these different galleries?
Just his work, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he decided, I'm just going to open up all these galleries to show my work.
Yeah, so I think quite interestingly, he started taking photographs of, landscapes and mainly postcards, and then he opened his first New Zealand gallery, and then all of a sudden he decided to go to America. And next minute, 13 galleries later, big production house in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, just huge.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it was really interesting seeing all the behind the scenes of that market as well.
And Peter Lick.
Peter Lick, yeah.
Was he a New Zealander?
He's Australian.
He's Australian.
Yeah, Australian, but
wow.
He's been in America for a long time now, yeah.
I'm not really familiar with his work, but I'll have to...
Yeah, no, I know. Australians generally are, and Americans, are as well. And it's landscape photography. En masse.
That's so interesting that he could be so successful as a business person and an artist as well. So did he have a team of people who managed the galleries and got everything set up, or was he driving that? Yeah, by
the time I worked for him, he had teams everywhere. Yeah, massive business. And I was just like, what the heck? Like I went from all these struggling artists, and then to be landed into that and see honestly it was incredible. And he had built that from scratch, but obviously with a really good marketing perspective, because the way he marketed and priced his work, it was all for collection purposes. And with the American market, he just went huge.
That is quite an inspirational story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it's a rare thing for an artist to be able to be so massively successful.
Yeah, and so to work for him was incredible too, and again, I guess it came from that sales perspective too. We did Tony Robbins courses, and, so to be on the other side and see the sales-driven side of selling work was a really interesting place to be. Yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you learn, and what kind of work were you doing in that role?
Well, so I was an art consultant, and which really meant in that role sales. So people would come into the art gallery, and we would just present works for them, and it was easy selling. I think I probably learnt more in my roles moving forward. I worked for Milford Galleries and Art Bay Gallery in Queenstown after I left Noosa. So I was there for 4 years and then had my current youngest baby, which she's 10. So we moved back to Queenstown to be with family because I was like,
yeah,
we're back to having a baby. Let's go
the
home, Mum.
grandparents.
yeah. So we moved back to Queenstown and I started working at Milford Galleries and then went on to work at Art Bay Gallery as well. And I think working at Milford Gallery and Art Bay is where I started to learn more about selling works and the relationships with clients. They're selling a diverse collection of works with artists that I'm familiar with that showed, I guess, the demand for different kinds of works to clients. We had, the likes of Ruben Patterson and Neil Dawson and, Michael Hyatt. And, all of a sudden you have clients coming in who will love one person's work and not feel anything to someone else's. And that's when you start realizing, oh, hold on a second. Everyone has a different taste. One person's work's not better than someone else's. It's just different. And it's what people gravitate towards is what they take home with them. And that was a real eye-opener for me because I always thought there was good art and bad art. And there was a real line straight down the middle. And I don't really think that's the case, And I thought too at the time, if you're in that gallery or that gallery, that means you are a good artist or you're a bad artist.
Yeah.
And I think there is a certain, quality of art for sure at the higher end. But at the same time, people relate to art across the board. And I think that's one thing to remember as an artist. You don't have to be in the top gallery to be an artist.
Or to be well thought of.
Although
there still is a little bit of that, isn't there? It is a bit of a badge of honour, depending on who represents you.
Yes,
which
I think
isn't necessarily fair or a good thing.
No, I don't. I mean, there definitely is, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be successful in your field. I think, there's different fields within the field and different galleries within the field as well. And there's no right or wrong. They're just different.
Yeah.
And I think you just get a different clientele that get drawn to different galleries, different works. Yeah. So I think the other thing with the art consulting is it opened up a lot of relationships with clients and going into their homes as well and seeing the spaces that the works ended up in. I think it's one of those things, you see works in an art gallery and they look amazing and you think, oh, how's that going to look in someone's home? And then they get into the home and that looks even more amazing. So that was a beautiful thing to see as well. And part of that job was probably my favorite thing, was actually seeing the works go into people's homes.
And learning about how and why people are connecting to certain works.
Exactly, yeah. And I think even when I met the artists when I was working at these at the galleries, that was always special too, because hearing their insights as well was really important.
Yeah, it gives you a whole new perspective on an artwork or artwork in general when you understand the story. Artists
have an idea about their work, and then clients also have an idea about their work. So when you're working with a client and they're looking at the work, they're quite often seeing something completely different to what the artist will talk about, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's room for that in art, and I think a lot of the time there's a lot said about art, but there's a lot that shouldn't be, because it leaves room for interpretation. And that's what I always loved working with clients. They'd come in, they'd see something that you were like, oh, you'd be like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. Or, they'll just see something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you find a lot of the clients didn't need to know the story?
They didn't want to. Yeah. I think they just instantly would walk in and have a connection. And some of them would want to know it a lot, and other people would just be like, nope, I want that. I love it. Sold, Yeah, so really different. Like people, the clients were all very different in their approach to the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that must have been quite nice for you to go to a gallery that had lots of different works by different artists instead of the same artist with the same type of work.
After working in Noosa with Peter, you were selling one artist, so
Yeah.
you knew the artist well, you knew all the work extremely well. But then when you're selling lots of different artists' work, there's something really nice about that. And I think too, when people would come in to buy work, they wouldn't just buy one piece. They would be buying 3 or 4 different pieces from different artists as well. And I think that was a real eye-opener too, because for a long time before I was in the consultancy thing, I had this idea that artists didn't make much money. It was a hard sell. But then after working in Art Bay and Milford Gallery, you just saw how in demand people's works actually were, and that there's a niche for artists in New Zealand, and galleries want their work. They want new stuff. Clients want new works. So there's definitely room to approach galleries, and more people should. More artists should be approaching galleries.
Yeah, well, that's encouraging to hear. And what would you recommend to an artist on how to actually approach a gallery?
Yeah, I think definitely phone first, and find out who you should be sending the information to. Because if you're just emailing it to an info, email, you're not necessarily going to get a look in. So I think it's making that personal contact first and just saying, look, I'm going to send an email, rather than just sending an email. I think that's probably the most important thing. So you know that where your email is being directed, or, if you've got a web page or links or any of that stuff in the email, you just have to know it's going to the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good advice. And it does seem to be something that scares quite a few artists. They're worried about approaching the gallery.
Yeah.
What would you say as far as, how to choose the gallery, or are there certain galleries that certain artists should be looking into, or does it not matter?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I am represented by Parnell Gallery here in Auckland, and they're amazing, and Art Bay in Queenstown with Pauline. And I actually love the fact that they're both owned by females, working in the industry. So that's actually, for me, that was a really lovely aspect of choosing those galleries. I think when you're looking, I think you just want to look at the other works that are in those galleries and see if you've got something different to offer. Don't necessarily go and look for something in a gallery that, they look like they have work like mine. Go for something different, because that's what galleries are looking for. They're looking for something they don't have, not something they have something like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing to look for, because there's lots of landscape, artists out there, but are your landscapes different to what they have to offer? Because that's what they're looking for. Yeah. They're looking for something different.
Yeah. And do you think there's a big difference between sort of regional, big city, or even quite sort of small town galleries?
Yeah, I think in Queenstown there's a huge international market. So that's one thing, working with Art Bay Gallery. They've got a fantastic international market, and you see that when you're working in there. I managed the Lightworks Gallery for a couple of years, and then worked in the smaller cottage as well. And just the diversity of people who come in from overseas, and it's a great way to get your work out into that international market. And also in Queenstown, we've got a great support network, of people who love art. So there's a lot of homes and new builds being done there. So there's a good market.
Yeah.
I think from a marketing perspective, you want to be where people are, for sure. And I think that's probably the difference between the smaller country town, galleries versus the bigger ones. Yeah.
You need the traffic.
Yeah, you need the traffic. Yeah, and you need the interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much point having your work on a wall that's sitting there somewhere and it's only getting viewed by, two or three people a day. Yeah.
And what would you say to people who have approached a gallery but then they haven't had a positive response?
I would say try a different gallery, just keep trying. And some you may not hear back from at all, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not interested either. They're just busy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it too personally. And if they're not interested, then approach another gallery, because they do want your work. They are interested.
And do you think galleries are looking for mostly artists who are quite well known?
I don't think so. I think a lot of the galleries I've worked at, they like training, so like fine arts degree. But then there's always the exception to the rule as well, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But there's definitely a quality of work they're looking for, and I think that's the one thing, is to make sure what you're presenting is at the highest quality that you can achieve.
And do you think the artist needs to be super eloquent and confident, and is that part of the decision making, do you think, from the gallery point of view?
No, I don't think so. I think most of the time it's all made on what's delivered in the email. It's those first couple of images that impacts. So I think that's one of the things, is really think about those first couple of artworks that you have in that email, and then from there the processes that go through your Instagram and all of that. But I don't know. I mean, that's the great thing about the art world. There's so much quirk.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to be one certain way.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, the gallery is doing the work for the artist, so they don't actually need the artist to be
100%. Yeah.
a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is the advantage in your eyes of being represented by a gallery?
For me, I think because I've been behind the scenes and I've seen the amount of work that goes into selling, I think I know that those people who are on the floor selling your work are there 100% for every artist that's there. And, it's not an easy sell. There's a lot of decision making. The process of the decision making to buy a piece of artwork is never, well, sometimes it's very like, yes, I'll take that one, let's go. But other times there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of in situs and taking works around to people's homes and seeing if they fit and work well for them. And so they do a lot, especially on the promotional side, sales side, and caring for the artworks, packing, delivering. I mean, it's huge. Yeah. Until you start doing that yourself as well, I don't think you process the amount of work behind it.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what would you say to people who think that galleries take too much of a percentage? Yeah,
I'd say from a business perspective, everyone's got to run a business. The art consultants who are selling your work also need to make a living. Yeah, there's rents to be paid. There's marketing to be paid. It's a lot from an artist perspective, but you can understand from a business perspective too that the balance works well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're giving up your work to be sorted by somebody else, which is a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially if you're not into self-promotion in a big way. I think it's really nice to be able to hand works over and then not think about them after that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. And just looking at, the amazing women from Parnell Gallery who I've got to know, and they're gorgeous.
Incredible.
And they're very supportive of the podcast, which is really much appreciated. But, there's so much work before a show, and then just the actual logistics of getting everything together and then putting on the show and then following through with all the sales, and it's actually massive.
It's huge, yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, you see all of the work that they put in to an individual artist for a show, and all the other artists' work that's hanging on the wall, on a day-to-day basis. It's pretty incredible. And
they've got the contacts. They've got a massive audience as well as your audience.
Yeah.
So they're kind of able to elevate, and reach a lot more people.
Yes, I think too, being Auckland based, I don't have that same following in Auckland yet that I do back home in Queenstown. So I think it's really lovely. Another thing to look at too when you're looking for a gallery, nice to look outside your square, push your horizons a little bit further afield, and I think that's what's great about Parnell for me as well.
Yeah. It seems like a great combo to have Queenstown and New Zealand's biggest city, Auckland.
Yeah.
I
think and like you say, they're such a great team. Parnell's amazing. Yeah,
we love Parnell.
Yeah.
So you had this incredible career, and I really admire how you've just kind of taken the bull by the horns at the beginning, and then you've just grown and become, a sort of an expert in that area. to me, that kind of job would be incredible. I think it would be beautiful working with artworks and artists like that.
Yeah, I think it was a dream job. Like I really loved being an art consultant. I think with my business background and my fine arts background, just bringing those together, it was a perfect job for me, for sure. Yeah, and just being in beautiful homes. Like I love architecture and I love art. So it was. I'd tell people about my job and they'd just be like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I know, I'm so lucky, I love my job. Yeah.
Sounds so incredible. And were you thinking all that time, oh, I'm going to get back into my own art practice at some point, or did you feel like that was totally on the back burner?
Not really. I hadn't thought about me being an artist again for years. I think I had shelved that idea after having children too. So much of your energy goes into kids, which is amazing. I adore my babies. But yeah, so I don't think I had the mental capacity to even think about that. And I think too, art is so consuming that once you start, well, for me, I'm one of those people who starts and I don't stop. And I kind of knew that about myself too. So yeah, definitely shelved that idea. And it wasn't really till COVID hit, we're at home and there's stillness and being the doer, always out doing stuff, I had to do something. And so that's when I picked up paintbrush and also found lots of stickers around the house from my youngest one. And that's where it all kind of evolved from, being still. And
having some headspace.
Yeah, and not having to work. Yeah. Yeah.
That is a really amazing story. I mean, COVID, it sort of affected so many people in so many different ways, didn't it? Sometimes it really sort of shut down creativity for some people, and for others, that was just like this gift of an opportunity. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely escalated my creativity. And with my youngest one, she's very creative all the time. And so it was also filling in time. So we painted together and we did stuff, like that together, which was really beautiful. Like you don't get time like that at home with children a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, you paint this and I'll paint this, And so that's where it all started. And I actually bought a mirror from Kmart, of all places, like in lockdown, and they did deliveries. And so I was like, oh, buy this mirror. And I had this idea that I was going to, paint and put resin onto a mirror. And that's where it all started. So in our spare bedroom, of all places, my gosh, what was I thinking? I set up some plastic tarpaulin on the ground and a table and, went to it.
Wow. And what made you think of the mirror, do you think?
I think I worked when I was in the Lightworks gallery, I was selling Max Paddy's work, and he does a lot of mirror reflection, and Robert Yankee as well. So they do that whole infinity mirror thing and light. And I've always loved light, and I've always loved color and reflection. And so I think I was just sitting there pondering. I was like, I wonder what would happen if I just painted onto a mirror and tried to capture light and color through the mirror rather than through actual light. And because I didn't want to design Lightworks. That wasn't of interest to me, but I wanted to make something with my own hands. I like that creative thought, and I wanted to create color and light in a whole unique way, I guess.
Yeah. So you were thinking at the beginning that you were just having a play with your daughter.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't playing with the resin. No, that was like that was definitely like, I'm going to try this for me. Yeah. I left her to it with her little resin bright pinks and stuff like that in the corner. Yeah.
And then you were thinking that this was just sort of a thing that you could do while you weren't working.
Yeah.
That you weren't thinking, hey, this might be the opportunity for me to get back into painting full time. Once
I did this first work, I was hooked. Do you know what I mean? The results and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. It's amazing. And but then obviously there's the restriction of the fact that we're in COVID. So I just continued to paint. And then when we came out of the first lockdown, I went back to work, and I said to the director there, Pauline, I was like, I've been working on something, would you be interested in, having a look at it? She's like, oh yeah. And so she's like, oh my God, I love it. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I was like, would you be happy to put, a couple in the gallery I was like, we're talking like maybe 6 to 12 months away. I was like, I've got to actually refine what I've done here, because we're talking a Kmart mirror and some shitty paint that I had around the house. And I was like, but if I get it to a point where it's of a high enough quality. And she's like, absolutely. So I did. And the first one I hung in the gallery, it sold within like 3 hours. It was insane.
Really?
Yeah. And I sold it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is cringe. She's like, oh, so who's the artist? I'm like, it's actually me.
Oh, that's so,
so
amazing.
funny. Yeah. And so that was another interesting thing. I think once I started that, I couldn't sell my own work. It was when I could sell anyone else's work happily, but I couldn't sell my own. And I think that's when I got to a point I was like, I can't do this. I need to, by that stage my work was selling really well, but people would come into the gallery and I'd even say to my colleagues, please don't tell them it's my work.
Really?
I don't want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I found it really awkward.
It's kind of crossing over, isn't it?
Yeah. And I all of a sudden didn't really know a place. I was like, well, am I the artist or am I the art consultant? And it was for me just like I'm either one or the other. I couldn't be both.
Sense.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of pushing a sale, but it almost feels like, yeah,
it's my work.
What you mean.
And I didn't like the pressure of that on other people. I didn't want to impose that on someone else too, that they liked the work and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's mine. You should buy it.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, I need to buy it. I feel really guilty if I don't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that was it was a funny place to be in. Yeah.
And what on that first sort of work that you created for the gallery, what refinements, what other refinements were you doing?
Well, so by that point I had found someone to make all my mirror canvases or mirror boards, or I don't even really know canvas. And so I had found a joiner in town who would do those for me. And I had found a really high quality epoxy glass that I could import from Australia. So that was those were the two things, was like the materials had to be of a high quality and the process had to be refined right down as well, because there is a huge technical side to all of that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I needed a space to be able to do it into, because my house, 1 bedroom, my house is just not going to cut it.
Yeah.
It's very toxic. Yeah. The smell of it's really strong. And
And so that mirror guy, does he make the mirrors from scratch, or does he work with mirror?
No, I've got two people. I've got one lot of people who cut the mirror for me, and then the joiner who just makes the actual pieces up for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you send a design through on the computer?
Yeah. So I'm not design orientated as far as computers and that kind of thing goes. So I quickly took my little younger people on in life. We've got some amazing girls that I work with who are in the design field, and they would whip up my cutting pages. I don't know what you would call it, and from there they would go on to be cut, and then I have someone else. Yeah, the other works that I do, my flower works, they're cut, but I do all the cleats and everything myself for them. Yeah.
You do all the what, sorry?
The cleats. So I do all the backings and the hanging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So pretty much I get delivered the cut mirror, and from there I do all of the workings of it. Yeah. So it's pretty hands-on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Is it CNC or laser cutting?
Laser cutting, yeah.
Laser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you get from them all these beautiful canvases, which must be so inspirational. Mm-hmm. And it's already, I mean, I can imagine just the mirror in the flower shape would be stunning.
Yeah.
Just by itself.
Yeah.
So it must be so motivating to kind of just add something else of your own to it.
One of the first things I wanted to create from, I think, being again with Lightworks, was some form of throwing light or colour onto the wall. And so I think with my first exhibition that I did paint marks, which everyone adopted as squiggles. And I was like, please don't call them squiggles, they're paint marks. But anyway, the squiggles, I spray painted the back of them in really bright fluorescent colours, so when they were up against a wall, you got that beautiful throw of light onto the wall. And that's something I've carried through my work a lot, and that's something Neil Dawson also does with his work, which is from when working at Milford Gallery. I was like, I love how that just, you get that beautiful colour thrown on there. Gorgeous. So that's something I've carried right through. So I do all the spray painting and everything. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And tell us about the actual the painting. You use acrylics, don't you?
Yeah, so I use a lot of metallic acrylics. I use resin paints, my big go-to. I use a lot of, like colour's a funny thing. I use blacks, but I look for blacks that have coloured bases in them, so that my blue base or a green base, and so I'll go and I'll ask for a particular resin colour done in a particular base, because when I use my paint, sometimes I water it down, and so I want those beautiful blacks to turn into blues. Do you know what I mean? So you get the hues coming through. Yeah, so I do. I use a lot of acrylic. So the process is there's a lot of layering involved. And that's another thing I've always loved artists' work, where they use layers. It's a little bit more two-dimensional rather than just one flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the layers, you place the acrylic paint, and that's quite gestural often, isn't it? It's quite sort of...
It's very intuitive. Yeah. And I think for me, it's just putting my energy, onto that canvas. Yeah, so it is. It's very gestural and just moving and see where the mood takes me type thing. I started work with this idea, and by the end of it, it's completely changed.
Really?
Yeah, it's just fully intuitive.
Wow.
And I'm very much on a day-to-day. I'm like, I'm going to do that green, and it's going to do this. And I'm like, no, actually, no, it's going to be this. Yeah, so I just get very much where the mood takes me. Yeah.
And I love the idea that probably because you are working in those layers, and then you're adding the epoxy resin on top of the acrylic, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then you, I guess, wait for that to dry, and then you've got time to kind of think, how am I going to respond to what's there?
Exactly.
Already, which is quite cool.
It's really cool. So I get to... And the beautiful thing about working with mirror is I can... God. What are all these things?
That's my husband. Would you stop? Okay.
Yeah, so the beautiful thing about working with the mirror is that I can... Part of me is a perfectionist, and then part of me is not. And so I have this thing where sometimes I throw paint down onto the mirror. I'm like, oh, you know what? I really don't like that. And I can wipe it off because it's mirror.
True.
And so there's this really, the pressure goes off, like, what's this paint mark going to look like? Because, if you're not happy with it, you can just wipe it off. And each layer I can do that. So, the layer of paint, and then I put the epoxy on, and then I can do another layer. And if I don't like that layer, I can wipe it off.
Yeah.
So there's actually like a little bit of freedom in there, where you don't get works where I don't like that. I can actually change it as I work through it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then a lot of the colour and light that comes into the work comes through the pigments and the epoxy as well. So so I tint all the glass, or the epoxy glass. I tint it all, and that's where you can play with different hues of the glass.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's what creates the different colours on the mirror is the pigments and the epoxy resin. Yeah.
Wow. And how do you do that? What is the pigment? What form does that come in?
So it just comes in a tiny little, it's highly concentrated.
Powder?
No, it's a liquid. So you just drop it in. It's so concentrated to the point that I could not recreate a colour again. Do you know what I mean? Like one extra drop or anything like that. You're like, and it's out,
Really?
So yeah, so to recreate a piece in exactly the same colour is pretty much near impossible. But yeah, it's very, and again, I just get in there, and knowing colour so well, I just dash of this, dash of that, a little bit of this, and then, I keep just working through the colour until I get the pigment, the tonal range that I want, and then I can lay that down, and then I can change it slightly by the next layer as well. So yeah. Yeah, it's quite a technical process.
Yeah,
a little colourist in there.
Technical. Yeah. And yeah, you can definitely see sort of your roots of your interest in colour and what you did, at uni.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
And I think the other thing is I've always been interested in reflection. My home in Queenstown when I was growing up was right down on the waterfront, and so we'd always have these amazing sunsets, or the trees would be reflecting into the water, and you get all these beautiful reflections, and reflections have always been like a thing for me. And so that's what I love about the mirror too, is you've got those reflections, and instantly it's not just you, it's also your surroundings that are in the artwork, which is something it's hard to capture. Like working with mirror, it's really hard to photograph and it's hard to capture, but when you see them in real life, instantly you'd have a piece of work on the walls, and if you're surrounded by trees, then all of a sudden the trees will, be in the works as well, which is what I love about the mirror. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. So the mirror, I mean, even with all that paint, like especially the acrylic paint that could be more opaque, it's still, the mirror qualities still comes through.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It is, yeah.
I can't wait to actually see one in real life. I haven't actually seen one of your works, in person.
I think the hardest question that I get asked is people, so what kind of work do you do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? You know, my mind just gets flooded with all these visuals, and I'm just like, I work on mirror.
It's incredible. And it's so amazing the way that you discovered this medium, which you're really making your own. And it's such a unique, your works are so unique.
Oh,
and it feels like, I feel like I don't know of anyone in the world who's doing anything quite like it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And I think it's such a great thing when you can actually discover something that you can make your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I was saying to you earlier, you know, in today's society with social media, you always are looking to do something unique. And I remember even when I started on the mirror, Googling everything, going about, okay, cool, with that artists working on mirror, you know, like, because you wanted it to be unique. And I couldn't find anyone. And then a couple of years later, I walked into the art fair here, and there was an Australian artist, Al Frank, and I was like, oh my gosh, he does it. And I was so gutted. Yeah. But, you know, I have, it is my own, and, you know, you can't be restricted by that.
No.
I just think it's one of those things now is with social media, you can get so flooded with visuals and be put off because everyone's doing something, or, you know, nothing's unique. But I think if originally to you, if it was a unique idea and it's your own, then you've just got to roll with it, because somewhere out there'll be someone doing something, you know.
I mean, it's just a material that's in the world.
If it's not a material, it's a shape. If it's not a shape, it's a, you know, there's always
that's
something.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's one thing. I had a conversation with artist in the gallery one time when we were discussing, you know, and she's like, I just don't know where to start. I go into social media and I get confused. I don't know, you know, one minute I want to paint this and the next minute I want to paint that. And I was like, you can't get distracted by the noise.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes you actually have to get away from that noise, I think, just to really get into your own head.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of the time I try not to look at too much other work. I just try to be in my own zone and just keep focusing forward on what I'm doing. Yeah.
What do you actually do with the edges of the mirror? Because I imagine that would be quite sharp.
Yeah. So the way the canvases are made up, they're on an MDF hardboard, or the mirror is on MDF hardboard. So the edges I actually hand gild with gold, because I feel that also throws out a beautiful light across the wall. And just recently I've started to use like mirror ball edges as well. So on some of my works I've started to use like tiny little square mirror mosaic, kind of like a mirror ball.
Beautiful.
Around the edges. So I do those on my sticker works. Wow. Just to add a little bit more bling.
You're just like my dream artist who works with such gorgeous materials.
I love glitter and anything that shines. And I did a work for a restaurant in Queenstown Airburn, and it's like 12 glittery flowers, and they're just so gorgeous. They're beautiful. A lot of fun.
And how did you come to the kind of gestural marks that you make?
I think I've always gone in that direction. I remember being at art school and we were learning to paint, you know, realistically a lot of the time, and then they were like, right, ditch that. We don't want you to be that kind of artist. And that was across the board, not just to me personally. It was kind of like, they taught us this, they taught us that. Now go and do your own, you know, thing. And I think for me, I was so energetic, you know, when I was younger, and for me, throwing paint was just like, it just felt like, it felt right. It felt like, it felt good, and it's something I could just check out of. I've got a very busy mind a lot of the time, and I'm quite happy to have a busy mind. I don't feel like I need to find stillness at all. I tried yoga and all that kind of stuff, but it's not me. So I find that kind of energy is an outlet for me. I love just being able to throw paint, and I love what paint does. I love the marks it makes itself. You know, the drips, and you know, you add water and you get the beautiful, you know, liquidy marks. Yeah, all of it. I just you know, embraced all of just what it naturally does. Just what paint does as a medium. And do you plan anything at all, or is it? I mean, are you thinking like a color palette? I do, but much
Doesn't always work out.
Much like life. You make a plan and everything gets laughed at. So, I have a plan, and I think about 70% of the time it goes to plan, but I'm also very open to making a diversion at any stage, because sometimes it's just what works.
What a beautiful way to work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It is lovely.
So you are quite experimental in some ways.
100%. I think it's something I enjoy doing, is doing things differently as well. I mean, I love the idea that my work, like people say to me, I can instantly tell it's your work. And I'm like, that's amazing. But I also love the idea of being able to use different mediums and not be just that kind of art one. I don't know, be pinpointed as she's the flower girl. Do you know what I mean? I love that. Yeah. And my daughter said to me the other day, she's like, I really love how you always do like different stuff all the time. And I was like, oh, thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like that, because it's what I like too.
Yeah.
And I think you get these ideas and they're in your head, and if you don't get them out, they're there for ages. Like it's like my stickers, they've been there for like 4 years.
Yeah, so tell us about the stickers. That's a pretty fascinating part of your practice. And so you've got the mirror works, which they can be like different shapes, diamonds or circles or rectangles, squares, all sorts.
Yeah, well, I love form as well, so that's another way that you can play with the mirror, and because you have that flexibility to kind of create any shape or form, it's really it's a fun way to switch things up as well.
And do you play with scale?
Scale, definitely. I've gone for just recently with my flowers, my flowers kind of come from, I grew up loving Andy Warhol's work. I loved all the American artists when I was growing up because they were bold and colourful, and New Zealand art back then had that darkness to it, which I also love personally for my home and stuff like that. But I've always been drawn to the the bright American kind of works as well. So Andy Warhol was kind of, for me, I had all of his books and I just thought he was incredible when I was growing up, and being in that screen printing background as well, I was just so drawn to his work and the colours. And so my flowers, which I've named flowers from Andy, are actually derived from his famous pansies that, the flowers that he did that you see everywhere. And so I just wanted to do something new and make them more pretty, more beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. And so that's where they came in. So yeah, definitely playing with, different shapes and forms. And then just recently I've started to scale them up and down and kind of combine them together. So there's like little ones and big ones. And I've done some giants for the show coming up in Parnell.
And then you've got I love the one that you've got lots of, it's almost like a garden of pansies all really close together.
Yeah, trying to capture, how they just grow on a field and they're just like in abundance.
Yeah.
Just that whole idea of them, layer upon layer, just all these beautiful, flowers.
And they're all cut separately and
they're all separately cut and placed,
How do you what do you place them onto?
So a mirror on mirror on mirror on mirror.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're decently heavy, once you start getting all the epoxy glass and the mirror and everything on them. But, you get all that beautiful play of light. And again, the backs of them are bright pink, and so you get from the edges and stuff, you get all the light colour spewing out. Yeah.
I cannot wait to see this show that's coming up, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yes.
So, yes, we just got slightly sidetracked then.
Stickers.
Yes, back to the stickers.
So again, sparkly. And I had this idea through, again, being at home over COVID, where there was, we had a lot of stickers in our house, and I just, like about the size of a book, just a 4x4 kind of size piece. And I just started stickering, and I was just kind of sitting there just playing, when I sit still, I always still like to be doing something. And so I was just like layering them up, and I was like, I just put it over by the fireplace, and I stood back and I was like, oh my God, that's actually really cool. Like the luminosity that you got from the stickers, and as you moved around there, they've always got that holographic, sense to them. And these particular stickers had gold edging all around them. So you got this other play of, all this beautiful gold as you moved around it. So that started me off on another tangent. And I've always I love flowers, like everyone does. You instantly drawn to flowers. They're beautiful. And the old Renaissance, style photography where they had and paintings where they had the, a vase of flowers on a bench. And I was like, if I could combine something crazy and modern with something, quite old and bring them together, it could work. And yeah, I think you get this really beautiful juxtaposition of the two together.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's the ones that I've seen are flowers in the vase, like you said.
Yeah.
Which is that sort of still life, more traditional, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Idea, and then bring it in with the modern.
It's kind of a slightly abstract, feel to them, because they are all, the flowers and the vase kind of sort of reveals itself as you're layering them up.
Yeah, it's really fascinating the way that happens. And then the background, all the stickers, so the entire area that you're working within is stickered.
It's all thousands of stickers.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then so the backgrounds are still more stickers. So it's almost like something's camouflaged until you sort of stand back from it. And
exactly.
It comes out,
it kind of just reveals itself.
Yeah, which is interesting in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think for me too is, that childhood nostalgic kind of like layering of a notebook, or, you just like collect stickers, and for me it's all of that combined with all these, like growing up, we all love sparkle, and and that combined is just so fun. And then you look at them and there's skulls and there's butterflies and there's horses, and the more you look, the more you see as well, which is kind of interesting.
It's really interesting, and it's so clever and so amazing that you can use like a skull sticker in a floral still life.
Yeah.
And it works.
And bulldozers and dinosaurs.
Really?
Yeah, there's there's no limitations, cats and dogs, and I don't know, there's so many little visuals in there. Yeah. That's
incredible. So what's your process for that?
So the process more for me is I sit at home with these. So this is something I can do at home, and I'll just sit there with the kids in front of the telly, or just, I'll be hanging out with my husband and I'll just be stickering, and it becomes, quite a meditative process for me. I can just sit there and I just, layer the colours up, and then I'll put it on a bench further away and just sit and look at it for a couple of days, and I'll pick it up again and start back at it and add colour and bits and pieces here. And, a lot of the time I'm looking to make the yellows go to oranges to go to reds to get depth, or, have the background going from a gold through to a blue to give kind of like, because as you move around the works as well, because they give off that light and sparkle, they change. Yeah, so it's fun. It's a really fun medium to use.
Yeah. And do you draw shapes in first?
No, just like more. I go off photography, other people's photography. At this stage, I just find still lifes that I like, and then go from there and layer them up. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how do you do it? So is it sort of feathered, and you start at the bottom and kind of work your way up? Kind
of more background forward. Okay. So filling in the background and then layering on top to get the next layer. So they are quite. I actually do pour resin over them in the end just to seal the stickers in, and because I do worry that eventually they'd peel off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you can, if you're not happy when you stand back, you can just take stickers off and reapply.
Yeah, I tend to leave them on there and then just apply over the top. Yeah.
That is fascinating. And I've just got so much admiration for the way you're like, I'm going to do that. And then
that's my life.
You make it happen, and it's amazing, and everyone loves it, and you're off on another journey.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone loves it. These are like my first two that I've actually put on a show. Really? I've done a massive one at home that I started, and it took me about 6 months. It took me so long. It's huge. It's I think 1.6 by 1.2. It's really big.
Wow.
And there's thousands of stickers on that one. And I've still got one little corner that I haven't finished.
Really?
Yeah.
It does. It feels like a jigsaw puzzle, that kind of idea of something sitting on the table and you keep coming back to it.
Yes, it is.
And it's a nice way to kind of just chill, but still do something.
Yeah, exactly. A glass of wine, some stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I drive my family a little bit crazy with my stickers, because when I do pull them out into the lounge, my husband's like, oh my God. And next minute there's stickers on everything. You get into bed and there's a sticker in your bed.
On your nose. And,
totally.
I can imagine. Oh, that's brilliant. I just think it's incredibly inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
That you are taking that leap of faith in a way that you're putting a material that you get at the $2 shop or
totally.
into a gallery.
Yeah.
And it's great that Parnell Gallery have welcomed those with open arms.
Yeah, totally.
Into your latest show. How would you respond to people who sort of place less value on a work like that because of the material that you've used?
Yeah, I leave that up to the buyer, to, their discretion. There's a lot of time that goes into the process more than the materials. I think even, it might not seem like a lot, but it costs a lot even just to make the boards, pour the resin on, and the time that is involved. There's a lot of time that goes into
and a lot
into
of
those
talent
works.
and a lot of experience.
A lot of thought, a lot of yeah.
And it's just, I think it's awesome these days that people can use recycled materials or stuff they find at an op shop or whatever, because it's just another medium.
Yeah, I think too. Experimenting with different mediums is fun too, and it's unique. It's something. Yeah, not everyone's using stickers in the world to,
and it's
to
so
create
fits
something
with your philosophies and your passions and what you love in art. With the light and reflection and colour.
Exactly, and I think in some ways I was like, how do these tie together? And then I was like, no, they do tie together. It is all about light and colour.
Really do.
Yeah.
So I wonder what other medium you'll discover.
I know. Well, I look at other artists, bigger artists in the art world, like, Damien Hirst and stuff like that, and they don't just sit there and do the same thing over and over again. And I think if you've got a creative mind, it's it would get old pretty quick doing the same thing over and over again. And I don't want art to get old for me. I want to be able to experiment and do new things and just go wherever my mind takes me and get it out of the mind and onto paper or canvas or mirror or For me, that's what it's all about.
And I don't think you'll ever have a problem with ideas or inspiration.
I hope not. No,
I don't. No, I think you don't strike me as that person.
Oh. No. There's always new things brewing. Even just recently, I'm like, okay, I want to do these sculptures and I want to do this, and this the biggest limitation is having the money to do it. That's the biggest thing, and I've been very fortunate that my work has been so well received, and I've had some amazing clients and buyers, and it gives me the ability to keep trying new things and keep producing work, which is one thing. A shout out to all the buyers out there. Like every time you buy a work, and that's one thing, again, working as an art consultant, not only has the artist made that client extremely happy with the new work, but what the buyer doesn't see is how happy the artist is, because it's their life, and it's such a huge privilege. And when someone buys your work, it never gets old. Do you know what I mean? It's always just like, oh, they love it. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yeah. And I think that a lot of the time the buyer doesn't see that, and the artist doesn't see the other side. So it's really beautiful.
Right. Yeah, it's lovely. And it's so lovely that you've had that experience. And it probably really does hugely inform your practice and who you are as an artist, would you say?
I'd say so. Yeah. I think it has given me a lot of confidence to just produce as well, knowing that there are people out there who, not everyone's going to love it. And there have been times back when I was working as an art consultant, and you would hear people talk about your work and they don't like it, and you're like, oh, okay. And that's fine. You just got to get past that point. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to like what you do or like the medium or, but other people are going to fall in love with it. And that's what makes it awesome.
And there's definitely that nostalgic aspect to your sticker work in particular, because so many of us did, the sticker books as kids, and stickers were quite a huge thing, when I was growing up.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. They're probably not quite the same as they used to be.
I don't think so. You still see them in the $2 shops, but my kids definitely.
They don't collect them.
No, not like.
We used to send off to businesses and ask for stickers, and they'd send them back in an envelope and stuff like that.
Even when I started doing my sticker work, a friend of mine, she's like, oh my gosh, I have to show my mum this. She's like, my whole car was covered in stickers like this. My first car,
Really?
The old shit box. She's like, it was covered in them.
Amazing.
And I was like, that's so cool, and even the comments on Instagram, they're like, oh my gosh, this takes me back to the 80s or the 90s. And, so instantly people feel the connection with the stickers as well.
Yeah, which is lovely. And where do you source your stickers?
I go direct to locally, actually, in New Zealand. I try to keep everything that I can done here in New Zealand. So, support the New Zealanders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always good.
Not on Timo or anything like that.
I know, Timo is a funny one. Timo? But, for me, with my art business, they do have materials that are good for kids to use. And they're a
the
lot
price is
cheaper.
unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah, and my daughter's quite staunch about not using it, but I'm like, from a business point of view,
it's hard. Yeah.
it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of negative things about it too. Anyway, let's not go down that road. You've got an amazing solo show coming up at Parnell Gallery, and that is called A Pansy for Your Thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's from the 14th of May this year to the 28th of May, with an opening night on the 14th of May at 5:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be very exciting. That's a complete solo show of your works.
Yeah. So it's the second solo show I've had. Not up in Auckland though. It's my first solo in Auckland, and I'll be coming up for it with a couple of girlfriends. It'll be fun. Yeah.
Great.
It'll be nice. All the stress will be gone by that stage. And
Yeah. So how are you going? How's the preparation?
It's all done. So the last work went on the plane with me coming up here, which was a great relief to get them all away.
You've done well.
Yeah.
And A Pansy for Your Thoughts, where does that title come from?
Well, so it comes really, it's a funny thing, you intuitively start making, well, for me it was like, flowers from Andy, start creating flowers, and then you start looking into the meanings and the depth of the flower and the idea of the pansy. And so it comes from a whole idea that a pansy is the flower of thought. Yeah. And so that's where
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like right back to Shakespeare, and it's it's the flower of thought and love. I think it's called Love and Idleness is where they originally came from, but yeah, it's the flower of thought.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you've got your two large sticker works there.
Yeah. So
but then is the rest all floral?
So there's a combination of some of my larger mirror works, some florals, and my floral sticker works. So there's a lot of floral going on.
Yeah.
But then just in between, just fields of like my abstract color works as well. Yeah. So a real combination.
That sounds like an incredible show. It's going to be so visually stimulating and beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely be there on opening night. I know I'm going to love this show. It's totally my kind of thing.
Exciting.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing you again on the 14th of May.
Yes.
And seeing all the lovely women from Parnell Gallery. And what is going to go on after that, do you think? Have you got other things that you'll be working towards?
I've got quite a few commissions to do, flower commissions. And I just continue working and exploring and, keeping busy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, it's always exciting and there's a lot of pressure to get works ready for a show. So I'm looking forward to like putting that aside now and then moving forward, and the whole creative process changes again once you put one show aside and you start again. So lots more mirror to come, lots more sparkles, shine and light.
Yes, I can see that, and who knows what other things you might discover along the way, and as part of your sort of experimental process.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, and like I say, I am interested. I say this, and it's my thoughts, and we'll see how long it takes them to get out into something tangible. But definitely like the idea of some form of sculpture, and I think that's the thing with my pansies. The way they hang on a wall, there's kind of like they're a wall sculpture. So I kind of like the idea of taking it off the wall as well, and doing something sculpture with it.
I can really see that, and even like Dale Chihuly and his amazing glass flowers, which are often hanging or or on a plinth, or you can actually really visualize your work like that.
Yeah, as long as it's shiny.
Yes,
we'll go shine. Yeah, totally.
Incredible.
Yeah, I love Jeffrey Koon's mirror, sculptures too. Yeah. So honestly, just see where it takes me. Yeah,
I feel like you've got so much material in your head, and be fun to see where you take it.
Yeah, just have to keep up with the mind.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, isn't it? And so you're a full-time artist. You have been for 4 years, pretty much.
Not for coming up just over a year, full-time.
Full-time,
yeah.
a year.
Yeah, I was kind of part-time both. So I was working as art consultant full-time for a couple of years with Art Bay, and then went part-time artist, part-time art consultant. And then, like I said, it just got the blurred line in between. Yeah. And then by that stage I just had so much work and commissions coming on that I just needed to step aside.
Well, congratulations for such a successful start to your art career.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been incredible. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's a journey that I started on, and sometimes I think, why did I wait so long? But there's just been so many amazing other things that have come to life that you just, I don't know, you just start going down paths and you always end up where you're supposed to, I think.
Yeah, and the work that you've done, like we said, is, it's probably an integral part of what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think the life path, and even when I look back to what I did at art school, there are still elements of what I was doing there that show through into my work now. But there's also, there's probably the fashion influence that comes through when I'm preparing for a show. It's almost like I think about it like a collection. And I use that word quite a lot. I'm like, it's, my collection of works. I think that comes from my background in the fashion as well. Yeah. So I think all of that makes who you are, and at the end of the day, and it makes what my works have, And
you've got that business mind. Do you feel like you're bringing a lot of that expertise into your art practice?
I think it helps. I think having that business background, and also after working in galleries, it definitely helps for sure. I think I honestly think in today's society, with the way that social media works, it's such a fantastic opportunity for creative people. That wasn't there when I finished art school 20 odd years ago.
No.
It was, makes me feel so old when I say that. But yeah, it wasn't. And it changed so quickly. And I think it's brilliant. Any young artist out there just should be doing it, just getting out there.
Are you selling much work through Instagram?
I sell a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Not as much as I do through galleries, They've got such big followings. Yeah. And I think it's hard to get that traction going at the start. But, it only takes one or two sales and, it's helpful. Yeah.
And how do you find pricing?
Not too bad. I think working in the industry, pricing's fine for me. I think too, like it costs a lot to produce the works I produce. There's a lot of materials that are involved, and it's pricey. And so you can't sell your work for nothing. And so you have to price it to sell, but you've also got to price it to make a living off it as well.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, the business side of it. You just have to have the confidence in knowing that my work is worth that much because it costs this much, and it's my time that's involved. And, if I can't make a living off it, then, where do you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so good that you've actually started your art career, your own personal fine art career, with that behind you, with that approach to pricing and with that understanding.
Yeah.
Often artists think that they need to work for a certain amount of time before they can put their prices up, but it's like all the work that you've done in the last 20 years is informing the pricing and the work that you're doing.
I think that comes down to a lot of artists and their artwork. I think a lot of people are like, oh, how long does it take you to make one? And that qualifies what things cost, but it's not the case, there's sticker works that are like 4 years in my head, just like trying to work out how I can make it come to life, even if it, they take me days or weeks to do. It's not what I'm charging for.
No.
That's not what makes the price of the artwork.
It's not an hourly rate.
No, which you can't charge on an hourly rate being a artist or a creative person.
No.
Because you always know there's so many more hours that you've put into it in a whole nother way. Yeah.
It's all your life experiences that have contributed to what you've produced.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, should we get on to the questions?
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, what would you say to your younger artistic self?
I think I would say to my younger artistic self, be patient. Yeah. Your time will come, even if it's not how you planned for it to be. But if you're passionate about it and it's what you really want, it'll happen. Yeah. And I'd say that to any younger artist too. If you want to be an artist, like I was so adamant I was going to be an artist. And I think for such a long time there, I didn't think I was going to be. But in full circle, you come back round and just be open to trying different things because, like I say, I think at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, you'll end up doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking risks.
Yeah, taking risks I think is massive. Making changes. Don't be afraid to make changes, to try something new because a lot of the time from my experiences, it's what works. You get rewarded for it. Something else amazing happens or comes along. Yeah.
And what do you find is your biggest challenge as an artist?
For me, it's probably the materials, accessing materials, the price of materials. For me, like I say, I've been really fortunate that the fact that people have responded so well to my work, which has given me the, ability to keep moving forward, trying new things and keep producing work, but definitely materials and the challenges that they throw at me on a regular basis, just working with the materials I work with. They're not very forgiving.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And also relying on other people to be part of that process.
Yeah, I think so too. I think one of the other things for me, which I struggle with, is timing. Like I'm a bit of a yes person, and so someone's like, I can do that. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, time is massive. And it's something I'm learning to be better with.
Yeah. Especially being a busy mum as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but why do you think you make the sort of work you make?
I think I make the sort of work I make because I have to. I have to get it out of my head, and I think I now feel so fortunate to be in a position that I can. That it would almost just be so sad if I didn't. Yeah. I've wanted to do this my whole life, and so now I have the opportunity, and that's one of the reasons I do it, because I can.
Yeah,
and I want to, and I think it's great being a mum too, because you reflect on what you do and what your children see. And I was this beautiful moment when I had my first exhibition, and my son, who was 17 at the time, and he was crying, and I was like, oh, what's wrong? He's like, oh, I'm just so proud of you. And I was like, one of those moments you're just like, oh my God, this is all worth it. Like all the stress and all the crazy and, all of that kind of stuff. And one comment like that from, someone who matters, it's like, yes,
I know.
It's 100% worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means so much. And it's so lovely to be able to be a good role model to your children like that, for them to see you, living your passion and doing something that you feel really strongly about.
And it's what you tell them all the time.
Exactly.
Go and do this, do what you love. And then we don't always practice what we preach. And I think that was an amazing moment for me. I was like, yay, okay, cool. This is, I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path.
Absolutely. Well, I really think you are. And I think we're all very lucky that you have discovered your art practice again, because your work is absolutely gorgeous and so special and unique and incredible. And I'm so thrilled that, you're selling your work and you've sort of got that kickstart to your career, which I feel like will last the rest of your life.
Yeah, he's hoping.
I think it will.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's been a real pleasure meeting you, Sally.
Yeah, you
thank
too.
you so much. You've got the same name as my mum.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, which is nice. She passed away last year, so
yeah.
It's a nice name, Sally. I love it.
Never met a Sally who didn't like.
No, funny, isn't it? Yeah, true.
Yeah, no.
So thank you so much for coming out to Muriwai all the way from Queenstown.
Oh, thank you for having me here. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
It's been lovely chatting. Thank you.
Cool.